The wait is over.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the studios in the wrestling capital of the South, it's another terrific episode of The BENGEBUSTER Show. Please welcome your host, Tony Binge.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The BENGEBUSTER Show. It has been a few weeks since we've had an episode, but conflicting schedules and sickness and life, it happens sometimes. But hey, we're here tonight, and we're going to be talking some great wrestling, some great music. But before I can even get this started, I have got to bring on my co-host, cohort.
It's awesome, funny, random, doesn't make any sense, but it's good.
Host. I'm talking about Chris Rock and Roll Plano. Chris, what is going on?
Oh, terrific, Tony. Hope you're doing well. I know it's been a few weeks. You're talking about conflicting schedules, vacations, work, everything else going on. But man, I'm excited tonight. We're talking wrestling. We're talking some rock and roll, and I think we're going to touch on your career a little bit. So looking forward to tonight's program. Man,
I tell you, it's crazy when I sit and think about how quick time and life goes by. It's like I remember as a kid growing up, I hear my dad always tell me, I'd say, I can't wait till I get 21. He's like, well, when you get 21, you're going to wish that you were 18 again. And,
right.
And man, was he right? Cause he told me, he said, man, Tony, he said, when you get 21, it's like the years are going to fly by. But for me, it wasn't 21, it was 40. When I hit 40, it's like time was like life was just going by like crazy. But I'll tell you what, I can't ask for a better life. Life is good. But Chris, it's been a minute since we gotten together. What's been going on with you?
Man, it's just been crazy the last few weeks here, Tony, with work. We started school today, and I slid down to Myrtle Beach for a few days as well a week or so ago, and getting ready to head home to Connecticut for a big family wedding, Labor Day weekend, and there's a lot going on right now. And hey, even slipped and saw a WWE wrestling show live in Charlotte, which was nice a couple of weeks ago as well. So just a lot going on, concerts, and where do I stop? The list goes on and on.
That's great, Chris. I mean, and that's what I like to talk about is how that. I know that we're still in the middle. See, it seems like this has been the same thing that we've said on the podcast for the last 2 years, but it's like we're stuck in the middle of this pandemic, and we can't seem to shake it. But all in all, we keep pushing forward. We keep living our life. We don't try to sit back and go, well, I'm not going to do this because the COVID's out there. I got my shot. I know you got yours. And I'm just, and I'm not trying to push a shot on anybody. The BENGEBUSTER Show is far from political, that's for sure. But, man, I'm just ready to get this thing over with so we can get back. I was devastated this past weekend. I'd been looking forward to it for a while, but I had, I think we had like third or fourth row seats to the KISS show there in Raleigh. I was so excited about it. And then the day before the show, I found out that Paul Stanley tested positive for COVID. So that shut that down. So I'm still waiting to hear when that's going to be rescheduled. So hopefully here in the next, next month or so, but who knows? It might be next year, but hey, even if it is next year, at least I got something to look forward to next year of seeing KISS. And hopefully Motley Crue. I know you and I got tickets for that, right, for that as well. So I'm looking forward to that. But before we get any further, I want to touch base on our podcast tonight. And I was scrambling, trying to think, man, I had a subject in mind, but I thought, no, I'm going to hold off on that one. So I thought it was brought to my attention because, I don't keep up with stuff. But, this last week, I celebrated my anniversary in the wrestling business. I started my training in July of 1993, had my first match in December of 93, and it's just been nonstop ever since. And here we are, 28 years later, and I'm still wrestling, and I'm very lucky, and I'm booked, over the next the rest of the year, and I've got 2 huge matches coming up, and with some NWA legends. I can't wait for that. I know October, I've got a big show with the NAWA in Lenore, and I'm going to find me a partner and wrestle the NWA multi tag team champions, the Rock and Roll Express, and I think after that, I think I can retire, because now I finally got to wrestle who I've always wanted to wrestle, the Rock and Roll Express. I've wrestled them before, but never together, so I'm excited. But
oh man,
but it's gonna be great, Chris.
That's going to be awesome, Tony. Well, number one, congratulations. Another year in your books. On the career, and I know you're one of the hardest working men behind the scenes in the business. That a lot of people don't see. All they see is just you in the ring, and that's all they really see. But man, to get in the ring with WWE Tag Team Hall of Famers, the Rock and Roll Express, who have been in there with the best, both as tag teams, as single wrestlers. All I know is whoever your partner is, I'm going to put money down that you're going to start the match no matter what.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I already told him. I told the promoter, I said, hey, I don't care who you put me with, but I'm taking the double drop kick. Damn it, I'm taking the double drop kick. But no, I mean, I'm so excited, man. It's like when I go back in my memory, and that's kind of where I want to go with this podcast tonight, as we're going to be discussing 1993. 93 was a big year for me. It was when I started my training. I had a lot of people probably don't know this, but I was a diehard wrestling fan from the time I was probably 8 years old all the way up until I was in high school. And I guess around 90 or 91, I quit watching wrestling. I thought I was going to be a rock star, so I got me a drum kit and started playing. But so I kind of missed a couple of years of wrestling, and then I got the opportunity to start training in 93, and that's kind of what got me back into watching wrestling. And but anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead of my show, but before I get into the wrestling and about my career, I want to touch base, kind of paint a picture for some of our younger listeners at home about some of the cool things that was going on in 1993. The top films of the year included Jurassic Park, which right now my 6-year-old son, that's like one of his favorite shows or favorite movies is Jurassic Park, and of course we have the whole trilogy and we watch it a bunch of times. But then the other one was a classic comedy, Chris, Mrs. Doubtfire. I mean, that movie. There were so many funny lines in that movie from Robin Williams. I mean, I miss that guy. He was so funny, such a lost soul. But man, Chris, it seemed like every movie he put out, it was just great.
Oh no, absolutely, yeah. Robin Williams, I remember him in Mork and Mindy, and the sitcom, and everything he did. He was one of the best comedians, of all time, and. No matter what he did, he always just seemed to fit in no matter what his role was. So, yeah, no, you're turning back the clock for me. 93, God, for me, I was up in Providence, Rhode Island. I mean, partying, doing whatever, in college. And, it was a good time for me then, that early to mid-90s before I made my descent in the mid-90s down to the Carolinas.
Well, Chris, I was kind of like you in 93. I hadn't started training wrestling yet, but I was working as a cashier at, I won't say the grocery store, but I was working in a grocery store, and I was a cashier. I had gotten promoted to head cashier, and what head cashier means is when they hire new people, I was in charge of training them and teaching them how to run a cash register. And again, you young kids at home listening, back in my day, we didn't have the scanners. You literally had to punch in 99 cent, $1.99 produce, general meat department, whatever. But man, I was so fast with my fingers, it was crazy. And Chris, during that time, I started realizing that, I had a little nature boy in me. And as I was in charge of training these cashiers, I also would say, hey, after we get off work tonight, you got any plans? Because if you don't, I do. And that's when I realized
Right.
that once I get into wrestling, I'm gonna be like my idol Ric Flair, and I was in a lot of ways, but man, it was great. But it was a fun time for me in '93. But I'm trying not to get off subject here. But back to '93, Michael Jackson gives his first interview in 14 years on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and the interview earned a spot in the most watched interviews in all of television history. Now you think about that for a minute. 14 years he went without doing a television interview. I think that added to his mystique. Wouldn't you say, Chris?
Oh yeah, I would say so. I mean, his music, his mystique, the minimal shows of touring that he did. I mean, it kind of all, blended together. But yeah, I mean, obviously, and anyone that can get an interview with him, was going to take it no matter what. So maybe some of it could have been timing, but absolutely 14 years. You don't really see much of that, anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's it was great to see, to hear that. The other story about Michael Jackson was Michael Jackson. He was he done the halftime show during the Super Bowl in 1993, where his performance resulted in huge ratings success for the NFL, and actually is when it started the trend for them to book these big name acts to perform during the Super Bowl halftime show. So that's something else that Michael Jackson helped start. And as we know now, every time the Super Bowl comes around, we're excited to find out who the halftime show is going to be. And Chris, I know you're a big football fan, and over the years we've had some really good performances, and we've had some really bad ones. Looking back over the years, who would you say was your favorite halftime show?
Oh boy. Wow. Gosh, there were so many of them. I mean, oh boy, geez, the football. I think when U2 performed, I'd have to say that was a really good one. Geez, there's just darn many. I mean, Michael Jackson. I mean,
Kiss.
Kiss. Absolutely.
And of course we can't forget the best one of all is when Janet Jackson.
Janet Jackson, right? The Janet Jackson costume, malfunction, and
yeah.
The list goes. Bruno Mars, I believe, has done the halftime show.
Prince, yeah,
as well.
There's been a lot.
The list goes on and on when it comes to the pop culture, and end of things. Certainly.
Yeah, I mean it's great to know that Michael Jackson started all that. And incidentally, a lot of you people I know on this podcast, I always talk about Motley Crue and how much I like Motley Crue. But I'll tell you, as a kid, man, I was probably the biggest Michael Jackson mark out there, man. I loved Beat It and Thriller. That was always my two favorite Michael Jackson songs to go to. And then, of course, as I got older and listened to more, I'm like, man, I didn't know he sang that song too, And so, King of Pop, man, Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there was no one bigger, and, it was great for mainstream music. And, he did everything for the industry, and it made a lot of people a lot of money along the way as well.
Yeah. I mean, he really did. The last thing I want to talk about in music, and then we're going to move on to wrestling. Also, 93 marked Guns N' Roses completed the last performance on their Use Your Illusion tour, and that gig was also the last time that the original band members all played together on stage together. So the Use Your Illusion tour was the final tour of the original members of Guns N' Roses. I didn't know that, Chris. Were you aware of that?
I was not aware of that. Though, that the early 90s was an interesting year for bands. I mean, you kind of had the 90s bands were kind of trying to push, I think, some of the 80s bands out a little bit. What you had it was Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and it was an interesting time for rock and roll music. I even think in 93, 94 is when Vince was doing some of his solo stuff and not even was touring with Motley Crue, because Vince opened up for Van Halen on the Right Here, Right Now tour.
Right, exactly.
So I believe that was in 93, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right. Vince left Motley Crue, I think, the end of 92 or around 92, and then what was crazy about it was he left Motley Crue, and at the time they were working on an album, but he didn't like it, and then they had an argument and he left. But Vince put out an album before Motley Crue, and incidentally, Chris, if you go back and look, Vince Neil solo record, it done better than Motley Crue's new album sales. And I think the reason being, I'll say this to the day I die, I think that had Motley Crue, when they fired Vince or Vince quit, whatever the story you want to listen to, happened, and Motley Crue, I'm talking about Mick, Nicky, and Tommy, when they went and hired John Corabi, I feel like had they not used the name Motley Crue and called themselves something else, I believe that album would have done way much better. The problem is you had so many Crue heads that loved Vince, and then they hired John Corabi. John and Vince are two different voices, two different singers, two different styles, and I think that the Motley Crue fans didn't appreciate the new sound, I guess you'd say. Yeah,
it was a tough time. I will say this: we did catch. I was going in Mansfield, Mass. It was great with amphitheater back there, kind of like with PNC Music Amphitheater here is in Charlotte, and Van Halen was there, Right Here, Right Now. Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony and Eddie Van Halen, Alex Van Halen, and then Vince was opening up, and we pulled up, and we're tailgating in the parking lot. I remember this vividly, still 93.
Right.
And the buddies I was with, I think I was with 4 or 5 other guys, they didn't want to go in. They're like, nah, it's Vince, he's solo. I'm like, well, you're still singing the tunes. I mean, they're like, no Tommy, none of the other guys, and and so I wanted to go in. I was outvoted, so I ended up staying outside, and I missed Vince. We heard him from the parking lot. I mean, we heard him playing. Don't get us wrong, but but they were also kind of a little bit healing on the whole Motley Crue thing at that point, a little bit. Just what was going on with the band, and they're like, he's just opening up, playing a few tunes, and so we stayed in the line. We actually missed that, but we got in time, and then Van Halen blew it out.
Yeah, I think that if I remember, I saw Vince on a solo tour, but it was years later. I think it was like 2000. It was in 2000 something, like 2002 or 2000. It had to be 2002 or 2003. But Poison came around Greensboro Coliseum. I believe it was Poison, Faster Pussycat, and Vince Neil, or maybe seems like
Cinderella, maybe
Cinderella. Yeah, you're right. It was Poison, Cinderella, and Vince Neil, and they played the Greensboro Coliseum, and I went to that show. And but man, Vince, and I think Vince's solo band sounds great too, and even his debut record, Exposed, man, it has some great songs on it.
It did. I mean, if you were into it, he was playing the solo stuff, and if, you really had to follow it. I'm not going to say I was a hardcore follower of it. I mean, unless it was really like right in my face, but, I think I kind of came more to hear the Motley tunes, probably more than anything else, whatever he would pull out of the vault. But, it was an interesting time. I mean, and Vince was under criticism back then. I mean, the voice, how he looked, is it the same? Almost kind of how he's critiqued today. to this day. So it just was an interesting time, and and then Poison was trying to do what they were trying to be like the headliners during that time, and trying to see where their claim was, drawing fans and stuff. And I think Poison was always hit or miss on crowd sizes based on day of the week and what city they were in. Seriously, I mean, they could have a sold-out arena one night, and then the next night there might be 4,000 or 5,000 there. It was always interesting with Poison, just when based on who was coming to town.
Yeah, I agree with you. Things were so much different back then as opposed to now, and the fact that like you said, Vince. When Vince done his solo, to me, he sounded more Motley than Motley sounded. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. No, it absolutely makes sense. I think the biggest thing was, are the people going to accept this, or do we want to see the four guys on the stage?
Right. Yeah.
In front of us, and so I don't know. And now, the scary thing is the latest critiques we've been hearing about Vince Neil on some of these solo shows he's doing. I guess he's playing some state fairs and whatever else he's doing this summer. He's playing spot shows, and it's been a little all over the board, the reviews.
Yeah. But now I saw one the other day, and they said, "Man, Vince sounded great." And I clicked on the link, and man, he did. I mean, he looked like he felt great, and his voice sounded like it always, and he sang every word. So I liked it. I mean, and I'm hoping, knock on wood, this COVID thing is over by next year, and you and I can go party down at the Panther Stadium with Motley Crue, Motley Crue, Poison, Def Leppard, and Joan Jett. I mean, I'm excited for that show. So hopefully we'll get to do that next year. Now, moving on to pro wrestling. 1993 was kind of a cusp year for pro wrestling. There was a lot of stuff in the works, Chris. Eric Bischoff is promoted to Executive Vice President of World Championship Wrestling. And WCW in the 90s, they were trying to find their new identity. The creative minds assigned to accomplish this were either not qualified, or they were stuck in the 80s mentality of promoting shows. So wrestling was definitely headed to another renaissance, similar to the mid-'80s, and Ted Turner wanted to be part of it. So Turner wanted to not only be the top of professional wrestling, but he wanted to beat Vince McMahon. So in 1993, Turner's dreams were starting to move forward after he replaced executive producer Bill Watts with Eric Bischoff. Due to his quick success, Bischoff was promoted to executive vice president a year later, which gave him control over the entire company. And during that time, he started, hiring, bigger stars. And of course, July of 93, he signed, the biggest star in wrestling, Hulk Hogan. And I remember at this time I had started, I just started back had started training and started back watching wrestling. And when I saw that Hulk Hogan was signed to WCW, I said, oh my gosh, wrestling is getting ready to be huge. Because I knew that it was kind of, during this time, WCW, if you go back and watch some of their shows, the arenas were kind of darker. And they did that on purpose just so that you couldn't see all the empty seats in the buildings. But man, they signed the biggest star. We knew at that point it's going to be big.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I mean, when you sign, a name like when there's big name signings from cross promotions of a Hogan, a Flair, Dusty Rhodes, whatever, there's going to be, eyebrows raised.
Oh yeah.
And I think it excites fans. I mean, even Luger, when he was jumping from NWA to the WWF, and it's like, okay, it's kind of like something big is going to happen. They're just not doing this to do it.
Right.
These people these are main eventers in any city, in any arena, in the country and around the world. So, when a mid-carder got switched from one promotion, I was like, okay, whatever. But you knew when the big names that you knew there was, something big was brewing or potentially going to be brewing.
Yeah. Now, Chris, in '93, did you ever go attend any WCW events? Chris, did you attend any WCW events in '93?
No, I did not. No, my first WCW event I ever attended was Fall Brawl in '95 in Asheville. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually at that show too.
Yes.
I had went to a WCW house show in '93, probably like January of '93, and wasn't very many people there. I remember that, but I remember the main event was like a 8-man. I want to say like an 8-man tag, and of course this was when they had the Dangerous Alliance. So on that main event, if I can remember, it was the Dangerous Alliance. It was Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, Larry Zbyszko, and Ravishing Rick Rude, and they it seemed like they took on Sting, the British Bulldog, and I can't remember who the other two were. Ricky Steamboat and Brian Pillman. That was the other four. It was good, but like I remember sitting there in the Greensboro Coliseum watching this show, and that was like I didn't really know anybody because I had quit watching it. But my friends in school said, "Hey, look, we need to go check this out." But I remember sitting there in that Greensboro Coliseum, looking around, going, "Man, I remember coming here and looking as far as you could look. You saw people. I'm seeing all these empty chairs. I'm like, man, something's going wrong." But then, 12 months later or 11 months later, Eric Bischoff is now in charge. He's signed Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Bobby Heenan, and list goes on and on. But and at that time, I think '93 wrestling was starting to take off, but in '94 it blew up at that point. Hogan become the WCW World Champion. Him and Flair. We finally got to see the feud we always wanted to see. Who's the greatest? Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan. Just a good time to be a wrestling fan back then. But it was also a better time for Terrific Tony because that's when I got my start in wrestling. July of 1993, I got in the ring for the first time and thought, oh, man, this will be fun, until I got body slammed. And it wasn't so much fun, right, Chris. So over the next few months, I got beat up and was pretty much their punching bag, and had my first match in December of '93. As a matter of fact, Chris, I had my first match. Let's see, the Sunday before Starrcade '93, because I remember getting a black eye somehow or another. I got a black eye, and I go to Starrcade, and I got this big ass black eye, right? And the guy I'm with, one of the wrestlers I'm with, I'm like, hey, because I see people staring at me, and I'm like, hey, dude, because I'm green, right? I'm green as grass. But now I think because I'm a wrestler, everybody knows who I am. So I told my friend when I'm with me, I said, dude, look, those people were looking at me. I said, they must recognize me. They must know I'm Terrific Tony. He goes, nah, man, they're looking at your black eye. I forgot I had a black eye.
Right.
So I thought, damn. That was pretty funny.
Oh my God.
That was pretty funny.
No, I mean, it was an interesting time in pro wrestling. The wars were going on, and, who could pick who's talent, and, who wants to spend more money. And it's just like, it was, hey, and the guys and the talent was cashing in. I mean, God, even Jesse Ventura was at this particular pay-per-view as well. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, God, there's like crossover, Davey Boy Smith, and there's just like WWF crossover here. And like, where's it going? The lineup of the card was interesting. And, it kind of seemed like this, and I read that it seemed like this pay-per-view was kind of maybe shoved down the wrestlers' throats a little bit as WCW was trying to expand their pay-per-view platform and squeeze another one in before, Fall Brawl. And, it was just kind of like, all right, where are we going with this? But yeah, you're right. I mean, wrestling ebbs and flows. I mean, hey, look at me. Well, I know we're in the COVID territory, but just a couple of weeks ago at the WWE Super Show, I mean, the arena was very far from sold out. I mean, so what I think they said there was about 7,500 fans there. I mean, arena that holds 18,000. I know it's cut off a little bit with the staging and stuff, but still very far from sold out. So wrestling, that it ebbs and flows. I mean, it's when it's hot, it's the hottest thing on TV, and just a lot of transition with talent, and guys moving in and out, and there's just you got Roman Reigns out there, and you got Cena and those guys, but it's like where's the next Stone Cold Steve Austin coming from?
Right.
When's the next Rock coming? And God, I think that's what wrestling's almost waiting for at this point. To an extent, that's going to take it to that next level. That NWO type storyline that's going to, blow it up.
Yeah. And I think eventually that's going to happen. But right now, Chris, it seems like the independent organizations they're all on fire. They're having great turnouts, and coming up, Chris, on September the 11th, down in beautiful Rock Hill, South Carolina, new wrestling organization called the PWF, which stands for Patriotic Wrestling Federation. They are putting on a tremendous card, featuring a few Hall of Famers. Talking about the Rock and Roll Express, they're going to be there. So is Nikita Koloff and Magnum TA. That's going to be great. And right now, we're going to take a little break. They have a commercial. They are our sponsors this week on the Binge Buster Show. So fans, we'll be right back in just a second. We want you to take a listen to this tremendous card coming your way in Rock Hill on September the 11th. PWF presents live pro wrestling fundraiser for the 809 Foundation, Saturday, September the 11th at the Rock Hill High School in Rock Hill, South Carolina. On this card, see wrestling legends America's Heartthrob Magnum TA and the Russian Nightmare Nikita Koloff. In action, you will see Sweet Dreams versus Dirty, Deion Johnson taking on Chase Emery with Derek Vanderford, Dirty Joe versus Big Cat Dalton Dallas, Antonio Morgan versus Bosworth, Money and Power versus All Worm No Soul. For the PWF Tag Team Championship, King Enterprises takes on the Moonshine Express. For the PWF Heavyweight title, Myrick Moore versus Jake Jacobs. And in the main event, WWE Hall of Famers, the Rock and Roll Express takes on the Golden Gladiators with Zach Thomas. That's Saturday, September the 11th at the Rock Hill High School for the 809 Foundation, 320 West Springdale Road in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Tickets ringside are only $15. General admission is only $10. This event is sponsored by American Air Heating and Cooling, Cardinal Logistics, Kresnoff and Associates. That's Saturday, September the 11th at the Rock Hill High School for the 809 Foundation, 320 West Springdale Road in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Be there! All right, fans, welcome back to the Binge Buster Show. Chris, I kind of sound like Tony Schiavone there, didn't I?
Man, it sounded great. And Rock Hill High School. I got to say, it is the 20-year anniversary of the 9/11 attacks here on our soil here in the U.S. But, man, if I'm the Golden Gladiators, they better bring their A-plus game, because Ricky and Robert are going to be ready for them, man, the Rock and Roll Express. You're talking Rock Hill was a staple, I believe, for some Jim Crockett TV tapings back in the day. So those boys and Magnum and Nikita, no more needs to be said there. They're going to be having some flashbacks. And that's a loaded card from top to bottom.
I'm telling you, Chris, and I anticipate that place being sold out. I know I talked to the promoter a couple of days ago, and he told me, he's like, man, he said, Tony, I really think we're going to pack this place out. Everybody wants to come and see the Rockland Express against the Golden Gladiators. And then a few weeks ago, I went down to School of Morton, and I sat down and talked to Ricky for a little bit. And Ricky told me, he said, Tony, he said, one thing Robert and I plan on doing when we get down to Rock Hill is we're going to take those masks off the Golden Gladiators and prove to the world who they are. So I'm excited to find out if Ricky and Robert are able to take the mask off to prove who they are. But we shall see. We shall see. But all that's coming up September the 11th there in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I am not booked on this show, but I am going to be there. I'm going to hopefully sit down and get a word or two with Ricky and Robert, and Ivan and Nikita and Magnum TA. Hopefully, maybe get that planned out, get them on the Binge Buster show at some point. Because man, Nikita and Magnum right there, just in itself, is so much history right there. And you go back to the Great American Bash in 1986. I know Ivan. I keep saying Ivan, man. Ivan must be on my mind today. But Nikita and Magnum spilled some blood there in the great state of South Carolina.
Oh man, absolutely. I mean, God, the stories and the feuds with the Bashes and the best of 7 series, and gosh, what could have been for Magnum if it wasn't for the the accident and his potential run with Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And rock and roll was just so on fire with the tag team scene, and even Ricky to an extent with some of his singles runs with Flair and a couple others. And boy, if I'm a fan there, old school, new school, get there early, get in the door, get some autographs from these guys, take some pictures. And I mean, you just don't know how long these guys are going to keep going, doing this stuff. So you got to take advantage when they come to your town. And Rock Hill's going to be on fire September 11th, and God knows what could happen, but those gladiators got to come ready. And, Nikita, Magnum, and professional wrestling right in your hometown, right outside the greater Charlotte area. And you're in Flair country. You show up at Rock Hill High School in a week and a half. Oh
yeah, man. It's going to be a great, a fun time. Bring out your whole family, fans, and check this out, because you definitely won't be disappointed. Chris, I know you got a vacation coming, so I'm going to go ahead and end this podcast so you can get packed and get on the road. But, man, I wish you a safe trip, safe travel, and we'll be back next week to record another episode of the Binge Buster Show.
Yeah, heading back home, heading back up was back in the day WWF territory, but it's kind of wide open now. But, where WWE headquarters is located up in Connecticut, got some family business to take care of this Labor Day weekend and a family wedding. So looking forward to that and obviously seeing my relatives. But no, Tony, man, hey, we rocked and rolled it tonight, and I'll catch you on the other side of Labor Day weekend here, and we'll definitely be hyping that September 11th show up next week, and whatever else might be happening in the professional wrestling and music world and anything else that's going on.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. Fans, for Chris, I'm Tony. We'll see you next week here on the Binge Buster Show.
Thank you for listening to the Binge Buster Show. Make sure you like us on Facebook and download us on your favorite podcast platform.